on, you know, where am I going to camp? I had no idea. And here comes a guy in a pickup truck, pulls over. What are you doing? Look at my sign and stuff. Says, you want to stay in one of my cabins along the river? My wife will cook dinner for us. I says, really? He goes, really? I just live across the river down there. I said, okay. And I went from not knowing what was going to happen to me to everything was more than fine. And so situation after situation. At the beginning of this trip, in the morning, I was thinking about where I was going to camp that night, which made no sense at all, but I was worried a little bit. You know, like, gee, I wonder where I'm going to camp. I can tell you by the end of the trip, it could be 15 minutes before dark, and I wasn't much concerned. I had undergone a personal metamorphosis. You can't walk for 6 months, you know, and not have changes. So this was like right outside my cabin door, and I went from the blackberries and the ditch to never underestimate the future is what I'd tell you. Now this, I don't know how many of you guys know about Google Map, but do not trust Google Map. I'm telling you, this is really. They have, if you're a bicyclist, you can like punch the bicycle button and it'll show you bike routes. And it will show you walk routes. But it pays no attention to what's going on. For example, if you're in East LA and you want to go to the beach, it might send you through some ghetto or something. You're going to get shot because they just do it mathematically. And they don't like take into any consideration. And this thing, I ended up in a cow field. I'm in Idaho near a National Guard training area, and they ran out. I'm surrounded by cow pies and weeds, and I saw this thing on the other side. So like the pioneers, you'd have to unload the wagon, lift it over, load it up. You can see I even had a little laundry detergent. See, I tried to stay clean. My record was 8 days with no shower. And I'm a pretty cleanly guy, but everybody gets right. Everybody gets right. Okay, here I'm going through Idaho. And again, this was a hassle because you can see the gravel road. Now this is going to take me, I can't show all the slides, but through a National Guard training facility. I had a guy pull up like, what the hell are you doing out here? I'm walking across America and I'm on this road. It's like, what? You're going here? How'd you get here? Oh, MapQuest. The guy just shook his head, said, watch out for the snakes, and he drove away. But so many times, the only shade was the hat on my head. Now, I told you I have a couple of kids, and one of the things I had was this, and my kids go, oh, Dad, you look like a dork. I was like, I don't care. I'm telling you, this was the only shade I had in many places. And what was interesting is a lot of the markers along the road, they have these historical markers, and they'll have excerpts from a diary of a pioneer woman who was riding. What'd she talk about? The dust, the heat, the dryness, the endless sagebrush and lack of shade. And I'm reading, yo, baby, me too. I mean, I connected with those people because those conditions are still there. You know, without planning, I followed the Oregon Trail. Because what you do is you use common sense, you look at the map. My one thing was no interstates. I was not going to do any interstates. You look at it, well, you know, you're following the same natural routes as anybody. There's a geography lesson to anybody who has kids in school. You know, why would they pick that route? You know, so again, the Oregon Trail, it's still alive. I came to Oregon 1978. Instead of a Conestoga, or when actually we didn't come in Conestogas, that's a little bit of a myth, but instead of a wagon, I came in a Camaro. It's still alive. And again, welcome to Idaho. Now this one I wanted to show you because you improvise. It was so hot at the end of the day. Now this is July, folks. I'm going through Idaho, the Snake River Basin. I don't know who's familiar with Idaho. What I did, I went up past Craters of the Moon. Anybody know where that is? Arco, these little towns. It's out there. But what I would do is I would just set a tarp up over my handlebars and a little bit of shade. And that provided so much relief I can't even explain to you. Now this place, it was interesting. In the morning, I woke up, I told you I got up before daylight every day, and I heard something coming through the weeds. It kept coming. What the heck is that? I wait till it was almost on me. I flicked my flashlight on, and it was a skunk. Well, I dropped my coffee and knocked my chair over backwards and stuff. I thought I smelled bad enough. I didn't need to add to that. Now right here I'm outside of Jackson, Wyoming, and this is a very nice place. That's just my sleeping bag, kind of airing out a little bit on the tent. And I was stopped by the State Patrol in the morning, and they asked me if I'd seen any grizzly bears. I said, well, there's no grizzly bears here. He said, oh, yes, there are. I thought they were up by Yellowstone. They're all over. So here I'm in Jackson. If you've been to Jackson, there's like a little square with antlers and all kinds of stuff. And I don my outfit every once in a while. I was also in Mountain Home, if you know where that is. It's a big military base there, and I kind of hit the street and talk to people. And again, the Declaration of Independence. These were just some tourists. And I thought this was interesting too, because this guy gives these old-time rides and whatever, and he's supposed to be from the 1870s. Well, I'd be about 100 years his senior probably in that, so we thought that was pretty cute. This is probably the most beautiful area that I went through, the Tetons in Yellowstone. I already told you it was so that I would not get too far ahead of my wife, who was planning a visit in Labor Day. Now this was so nice. This is, I think it's called South Jenny Lake. Jenny Lake. And it was so nice, I just spent another day there. And just talking about adapting, I should, but I took a couple of mile walk, and as I was coming back, it started to rain. And at first, you know how it's kind of weird, you almost think you can dodge raindrops or something, but eventually, you know, you start to get wet. And after I got so wet and I was so far from home, I did something I don't usually do, and I told you how this changed me, my psyche. I embraced the rain. Now that may sound kind of strange to you, but here's what I mean by that. Instead of fighting the fact I was getting wet by this warm summer rain, I said, you know what, I haven't been in the rain since I was a kid. And I took my hat off, and I let myself get drenched. And the point of that, I'm not sure exactly, but is how you look at a situation determines so much about how you react to it. Remember, there's an expression I like, I've been a teacher, you know, it's not so much what happens to us, it's our reactions to it. Now, I could have cussed for 2 miles. Damn rain, but I just had this change of consciousness, you know? And so this was a very good trip for me in that way. Tetons, I'm in Yellowstone. Now my camera fizzes out for about 2 days. And the trouble with Yellowstone, I can tell you right now, is that the campsites are set up for cars. You don't have people walking through there very often. You have bicyclists once in a while, they don't encourage it. And it's kind of like the Spanish missions coming up from Mexico into California. They used to build the Spanish mission so it was 1 day's walk. So I could leave a mission in the morning, and if I was walking normal, I'd be the next one at night. Well, that's how most of these campsites were for a while. And then I got out in the middle of nowhere. Now, right before I got there, you maybe remember that there was a man that was killed in his tent. A mother bear and her 2 kind of grown cubs came and drug him right out of the tent, and they found him half eaten. They killed her, and they shipped the cubs off to Billings, Montana Zoo. That was in the paper right before I got there. And so I was a little concerned. It's always a little weird when something is bigger than you know? Anyway, I wanted to go to Old Faithful. I really wanted a picture of my cart there with the guys were going on. But the problem was, people would say, oh, there's this great museum 5 miles off the road. Well, 5 miles in and 5 miles back, that's an extra 10 miles. So Old Faithful is like, what is it, 19 miles? So you're talking 38 miles. I've been there before, so I did skip that route this time. Again, Yellowstone Lake. I like this picture. There's some bison grazing there, and there I was. Now, here I am. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I had stayed at campgrounds previous, but there's no place. I am halfway between spaces. I've been walking all day. I thought, well, I'm just going to make camp along this little lake. You know, I'll have my tea, my little, freeze-dried dinner and stuff. Everything's going to be fine. Whoops. I went ahead there too, but I hang my stuff up in the tree, because one of the problems was if you're camping, you put your stuff in a car or truck, keep away from the bears. Well, I didn't want to put it in here, because if I had food in here, this thing would be mincemeat. Some bear come up and swat the thing, and I depended on this totally. This was my mother and father and brother and everything. Okay, this is a very big deal. So what I tended to do is hang stuff in a tree. I thought everything's cool, I'm ready to have my little dinner. On comes the park rangers, and as you know, if you remember Andy Griffith's show, young policemen are tougher than older policemen in ways. He wasn't wanting to compromise, and he basically said, you got to take it into the woods or I got to take you in. Please. So I responded and I took it out to the woods, but I slept that night with bear spray. Now, when I went, this is pepper spray. This was for somebody accosting me, which never happened. I did spray it at a dog in Idaho. Most dogs are a problem. Dogs are problems. In town, people tie their dogs up. Dogs behind a fence. Out in the country, they're what you call yard dogs or porch dogs. And most dogs will come to the edge of their property or edge of the road. If a dog comes into the road, you got a problem. And usually I was pretty tough with dogs. You know, if you stare at a dog and get aggressive with it, they'll recognize that. I did one squirt at a dog and I missed it and it ran off. I said, come on back, come on. I want to go double or nothing. I did want to squirt that thing. But I thought, well, that's not going to work for grizzly bears, so I got some bear spray. I slept with it that night. Now, I did not give this up. I had to go through a ghetto in West Philadelphia that I'd been warned about by somebody who lived there. I kept it for Philadelphia. And we'll talk about that here real quick. Okay, I met a guy from National Geographic. He was filming. He saw all kinds of things. There's an otter there eating a fish. You can't tell. All these photos, by the way, were with an iPhone. I didn't have any special camera. Should write the Apple or something. I probably, you look for these weird first. I'm probably the first person to walk across the United States and record it with an iPhone. So I did. Now, I saw this all the time. East Yellowstone's worse than the rest of them. Signs all over like this. And you would get to these campgrounds and they would say hard shell campers only, and what that means is like a big RV. Even the tent pop-up trailers, And you don't argue with signs like that. Why not? People think they do something with a grizzly bear. No, they're not. They are bigger than you are, and I'm not, usually I'm dealing with kids, so you guys, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So this is Wind River Indian Reservation, Wyoming. It was here that my cart went over the edge of the embankment and the handle broke. And once again, you can cuss. I don't want to compare it to wagon trains, but if the axle breaks, you can sit there and cry. And then after the crying's over, what do you got to do? You got to fix it, right? So this is what was good for me. It's like you just got to deal with it. And again, people like to help you. People, oh, here, I'll help you, get out of the way. People are really good. I was unprepared for the wind. It was really, really pretty windy in some guys. I met a guy from a Rainbow Convention. Anybody know what the Rainbow Gathering is? Yeah. Okay, he's kind of like this dreadlock kind of a guy in a pair of shorts out in the middle of nowhere. He's about 19 and, oh yeah, dude, I'm in New Mexico. I'm going to Seattle. Cool, on my bike. And he warned me about the wind. Cool. And he goes, oh, I'm trying to live off the land. He said, would you eat this? And he held up a plastic bag. I said, what's in it? And he pulled out a dead jackrabbit. It was roadkill. Oh. And I said, well, it looks like it might be kind of ripe. I won't be sharing dinner with you. I went on my way. I don't know if that kid ever ate that or not, but yeah, I met a lot of weird people. Now, here's two guys who are kind of interesting. I'm near Douglas, Wyoming, and these guys are coming down the road, and I thought, all right, a couple Wyoming cowboys, because I like to talk to people and stuff. And I walked up to get the real McCoy here. And this first guy says, like, Polly-vous, humma. They were French. You're from France? What do you... Do they look like they're from France? No. They said they always wanted to ride horses across the United States. I said, cool. I said, where'd you start? They said, Kentucky. And I'm thinking, I'm going ocean. I said, well, why'd you start in Kentucky? They looked at me like I was stupid. And they said, because that's where we got the horses. It's like, oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah. All right, now you think your town may be small. I had to do this one, the population 1, okay? Now I do want to mention these trains for a while. Starting around Douglas, Wyoming, and it goes on into Nebraska. I was following train tracks now. And the conductors on this train, these people who work there, actually got to know me in a weird way. Because you think, there they go, and they forever. No, these are day jobs. These guys like go down to the, the power plant, dropped it off, and then they take the ride back. So they got used to seeing me. So over time, they'd like toot the horn. As a kid, you like to do that, but get the trucks to honk their horn. Well, this was awesome that these trains would go by and recognize me.